Hello, this is Jacob Jenkins reporting a story that's going to be remade, known as The World's Youngest Cop. Watch and enjoy. So, once there was a Salvadorian kid who wanted to become a cop one day. Every time he had a chance, he played cops and robbers with his friends. He's 12 years old, and his favorite football team is from Kansas City. So one time he was playing cops and robbers with his brother. But then, as they were playing, running down the streets and everything, they found two kids dead on their sidewalk. It freaked them out. It freaked them out. It was like, ooh. So Max decides he's gonna try to get to the bottom of it. So he starts looking for clues on it and starts looking on the internet about it, because the news was reporting that worldwide. So as Max was looking for clues and everything, the grandmother finds out and tells him to stay out of it, but Max refuses. And keeps looking for clues and everything. The grandmother was always overprotective and just didn't want anything to happen to her grandbabies. And Max keeps looking for clues to find out who did that to those kids. As he was looking for clues, he found 3 more bodies of little kids dead on the sidewalk. They look like they've been ran over. So Max asked the kids that were still alive. He asks them questions, and he said. And this is what they told Max. They were really petrified. Tell you that. They were petrified. When we were just playing basketball, just like we usually do. Just love playing sports. Until all of a sudden, there was this kid, like 12 years old. He had men, and they had brass knuckles on them, and they just started holding them, and the other man with the brass knucks started beating on them until they were dead. Punched them in the face, broke their jaws, hit them right in the stomach. It was just terrifying. And so Max tells them to calm down. I'm gonna find out who did this to him. The boys looked like, how are you gonna find out? Can you just call the cops? Max tells them, our cops are no good right now, so I'm gonna take matters into my own hands and find the criminal who did this. And so Max goes on looking for clues, but the grandmother could not take it anymore. And so the grandmother decides to put Max on house arrest until this killer was caught. So, oh, Max decides to go behind the house arrest, go against the house arrest, and just go on to finding clues. So Max escapes out of his window and out onto the streets, starts looking for clues again to what that murderous kid could be. And so he looked for he kept looking and looking and looking until all of a sudden the grandmother notices that he was gone. And then he goes right back home, and the grandmother started yelling at him, really mad. And guess what the grandmother did? He put security things all over Max's house, so Max could not get out. And there was no way Max could continue his investigation. And so the grandmother was driving all the way back to Max's house to talk some sense into him. But on the way, she found 5 dead bodies of kids. She finds, and she looked on in horror and disgust. And so the little sister, who was about 10, she yells at the grandma and says, "Put Max on this case. The cops here are no good. If you keep doing this, and leaving it to the cops and keep Max on house arrest, more and more kids are gonna die. So I suggest you put Max back on this case, or else I'm gonna say I hate you." The grandma got stark raving mad and spanked her. She was not going to change her mind, so she put the little sister on house arrest with the brother and kept them in. 2 days later, Max woke up at 12 o'clock in the morning to check on his little brother. He looked, but his little brother wasn't there. So he starts looking for him all around the house, told his sister about it, and the sister helps out. But then all of a sudden, the sister walks outside and yells, "Ah! Max, come quick!" And Max sprints outside as fast as he could. And you won't believe what he found. He found his brother beaten to a bloody pulp and hanging from a tree. Just dripping blood. Max looked on in horror. Then he broke down and just cried. So did So did the sister and the father. They're and so Max sees something on the little brother's shirt and says this. If you want me to stop this, you might as well come stop me yourself. Sincerely yours, the ultimate bully serial killer. Oh, Max got outraged and just tore the paper up and started kicking and throwing things around. After a moment of crying, the father calls the grandmother and tells her what happened. The grandmother gasped in horror. And then the granddaughter snatches the phone from her father's hand and just yells at the grandmother, saying this: "I told you you should have put Max back on the case. You did this to our brother. I can't believe it. Why do you always have to trust the cops over us? I hate you, abuela!" The grandmother broke down in sadness. And then all of us, after 2 hours of sadness, the grandmother said to her son, "Give the phone to Max." Max picks up the phone and says this, and the grandmother says this: "I need your help, mijo. This has gone on long enough. Your brother's dead because of me. Because I wouldn't trust or believe in you. But right now, I need your help." Max agrees that something had to be done. So, Max gets back on the case, starts looking for clues and everything, until finally he found one of the men that the kids were talking about. So he goes up and questions that man. And where is the serial killer? When the man refuses to answer, Max had a torture thing for him. The man hated bees. So Max gets a big box of hives that had a big hole, round circle hole in it, big enough to fit your head in. So Max decides to say this: "Tell me where the serial killer is or else." The man looked at the bees in horror and said to Max, "I can't tell you. He'll kill me." Max said this: "Death is death. Does it matter who produces it? Besides, you're about to die anyway." And Max slowly lowers the bad guy in there. And then, with an inch of being in the box, the bad guy finally confesses, "Stop!" and tells him where There, the serial killer is. So Max and his grandma go to the serial killer's hideout, and they wouldn't believe. And the serial killer was a 12-year-old boy named Carlos. Carlos catches them in their trap. And was hanging them right next to a pot with boiling lava. And so Max questions him of why he was killing all those people. And he tells him this story. Back when I was in school, I was getting bullied, picked on, and stepped on and ignored. And the teachers weren't doing anything about it. So what happened, says Max, I beat up the bullies. I beat up the bullies instead. And then I got expelled from school. And no other schools would take me. So it ruined my life. So now I'm gonna make every single bully pay by knocking them off the face of this earth. The assistant of the serial killer comes in and says, as Carlos, hello, sir, it's time to take off. Okay. And Carlos pushes the button that slowly lowers Max and his grandmother in there and leaps out. But all of a sudden, Max finds a way to escape. And then goes after the serial killer. While the serial killer didn't even tell him where he was going, Max stuck a homing stick pin on him so he could find him on his phone. So Max goes and finds him, and he sees the serial killer about to kill a girl who always bullies people. Max gets there in the nick of time and stops it. That's it. Miguel looks at him crazy with the evil eyes. Max Santino, you're a bully too. All of you jocks, all of you popular kids, you always thought you were better than everybody else. You always thought you had everything. You always thought you were all that. Well, now, you evil people, you're about to get what's coming to you. I'm not evil, Carlos said Max. I'm not. Look, I was picked on too. I was picked on too. I was teased, had my lunch money taken away from me. Had my lunch, had been ganged up, been jumped before, and I didn't let it bother me. You just suffer through that and it gets better. If you go back to school, you will be able to see that. please, let me help you get back in school. Oh. But Carlos said, I rather drink donkey pee. You won't listen to He said, me, Carlos, I'm gonna kill you and every other bully in this world. So they get down and fight. And they pounded the tar right out of each other. In the face, in the gut, everywhere. And the grandma was handling the bad guys. The associates that was with the serial killer. And so, Max gets the better of it, and decides to send him right to jail. And was gonna kill him for killing his little brother, but Max decides it's better he stays around and faces the consequences. Hi. Hold on. And so, Max was about to just handcuff him, but then he grabs the pepper spray and sprays Max in the eyes. By the time Max washed it off, it was too late. He had already escaped with his rocket. But then the rocket goes right out of control and just goes right into outer space. At the back, the serial killer tries to escape in the escape pod, but he pushes the button too late. And the escape pod gets out before he could get in. And the ship just kept going all the way into the freezing cold of space. The serial killer's body just turns real icy blue. His fingernails turn into ice. The rest of his body and his face turns blue. And his eyeballs and ice comes right out of his eyeballs. And the rocket crashes, blowing to pieces. Max looks up and sends his condolences to the kid. May God open up the gates of heaven for him, he says. Back home, Max and his grandmother and the rest of the family throw a funeral for his little brother. Max lays a bunch of flowers on his grave and does the cross sign, pointing up to the sky to his brother. And then back home, it was just the year went by. Max is 13 now. And so his grandmother now stays with him because the grandmother was poor. That's why she had to take her job. That's why she had to take the job with the cops, because she didn't have any money. And so the grandmother comes down to meet Max's friends who are playing and joking around. Then Max looks up looking weird at her, and says to his grandmother, "Hey, abuela, don't you think you ought to put some clothes on now?" The grandmother looks down and says, "Oh, no, and just runs back upstairs. And every night, Max looks up to the sky and know that his brother is up in heaven, looking down on him, being his guardian angel. And he does that in the hopes that he will be a #1 cop, police detective someday. Hey. And that, my friends, is the story of the world's youngest cop. The end. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more stories and songs. This is Big Jake signing off. Peace out.